Hello and welcome back to Bits and Bobs. Today's video is the life and legacy of King Edward VI, the monarch of the month for the month of February 2024. We begin with his father, who is this monarch here. Of course, you recognise this as King Henry VIII, being the father of King Edward VI. King Edward VI's mother, Henry VIII's wife, was Jane Seymour, as you can see here. So very famous parents, Henry VIII and Jane Seymour, probably more famous, both of them, than Edward VI himself, but they were his parents, and he was born on the 12th of October in 1537. And where was he born? He was born, of course, at Hampton Court Palace, the lovely royal residence of his father, King Henry VIII. And there it is on a nice summer's day, looking very regal and very, the place of a fit place for birth of the future King of England. Now here is a young picture of the king, or back then, of course, Prince Edward, whose life didn't begin very well, as when he was only 12 days old, 12 days after he was born, his mother, Jane Seymour, died. So, he would have been too young to really know, but of course then raised by a single father, King Henry VIII, although as you may have guessed, Henry VIII was not the best parent, and so he was raised mainly by tutors and by his teachers, and mainly lived at Hampton Court Palace, although he did live in London as well for some time for scholaring and for school. It is noted that he thoroughly enjoyed the attention that came with his title, because of course he was the next in line to the throne, and he knew it, and he enjoyed it, as the sources say, and they also say that he was very intelligent as a child and as a pupil, being very specialist in the languages, learning more than 3 languages at just a young age of only 8 years old. His education, though, was interrupted, as on the 20th of January in 1547, a momentous occasion happened for the nation, as King Henry VIII died, of course therefore no longer being king, and the king was then his son, his heir to the throne, eldest son, Prince Edward, of course now becoming King Edward VI at only 9 years old. Only 9 years old, and he is the king of one of the most powerful countries in the world at the time. His coronation took place the month after, on the 20th of February 1547, and here we can see the young, as I say, only 9 years old king being crowned at his coronation in 1547. Now, of course, as the young king was too, young to rule on his own, a regent was appointed, and this was Edward Seymour. So as we can see here, Edward Seymour was appointed as the regent, acting on basically behalf of the king to carry out his duties, and he was the one making the decisions and fighting the battles, and ordering the troops on his behalf. So now that he is king, though, we'll go through a key events timeline of the reign of Edward VI, starting with the Battle of Pinkie, which, as I say, was of course led for the English by Edward Seymour against the Scottish, and it was a victory for the English, so a very good start to Edward Seymour's regency and to the reign of Edward VI, as it was a victory in battle against the Scottish that first year. And then, in the second year of King Edward VI's reign in 1548, William Cecil was appointed Secretary of State. So many nobles, English nobles, taking high power positions in the government, as of course King Edward VI was too young to have full power. They were sort of using this to their advantage to get more wealth and to get more power in the country at this time, as was William Cecil doing by becoming Secretary of State. In 1549, a new Book of Common Prayer was issued for all of England. The new sort of updated Book of Common Prayers was issued and made law for those to use in England in 1549. Also that year in 1549, Edward Seymour was removed from office, so he no longer held power as regent acting on behalf of King Edward VI, as he was removed from office, therefore removed from power. Why was this? Well, in 1549, Somerset was overthrown by the unscrupulous John Dudley, Earl of Warwick, soon to be Northumberland. Northumberland put Edward forward at the age of 14 to be entitled to all the power of King Henry VIII, his father, but the young king was the mask behind which Northumberland controlled the government. And before the king turned 14, he had even more power. Here he is, John Dudley, or Earl of Northumberland, and as I say, just another English noble using this opportunity to get more power and to become, sort of basically leader on behalf of the king, as the king was very young and could be taken advantage of. In 1551, 2 new coinage denominations were introduced, the sixpence, as we can see here. Now don't be fooled, you can see there the VI to the side of the king's portrait. This is not for Edward VI, though. The 6 is on the sort of legend there, after his name. That is VI for 6, as this was the first ever sixpence piece introduced in 1551 and became, for hammered and for milled coinage, a very popular denomination and a staple of pre-decimal coinage. As did this coin here, the shilling, and we can see there, as you can see, it's now 12 there, XII, and this is of course not Edward XII, but it's 12 for 12 pence, which was all on shilling, the new denomination. In 1552, the king's health took a turn for the worst, as that year he contracted both smallpox and measles. He did survive through that year, but was very unwell, of course giving just more power and opportunity for the English nobleman to rise and take power, as did Edward Seymour, looking to reclaim his position as regent. However, for this he was executed for treason in 1552. And then, on the 6th of July 1553, as the king's health worsened further, he finally did die, only aged 15, after a short reign and a very short life as well. And because of his young age, of course, he had no children to inherit the throne, so leaving the country in a bit of an unstable position, with many power-hungry lords and nobles looking to take the throne, and of course him having no descendants to claim this. Now, it is known today in modern times that he died of pulmonary tuberculosis, so just another ailment of the very unwell King Edward VI. And it was, of course, Lady Jane Grey inheriting and taking the throne after King Edward VI, carrying on forward with the succession line and the English monarchy. And now, for almost 500 years, King Edward VI is laid at Westminster Abbey in London, in the royal burial grounds of many monarchs who are buried here, and he has one of the better, actually, graves, quite a nice fancy grave for King Edward VI. So there we go. A little fact about him: he was in fact the first Protestant king, the first king to be raised as a Protestant, as religion and times are changing in the country. And there we go. So please do comment down below any extra facts you have about King Edward VI and his reign. We'd love to know more to add to this short little summary of his reign. Please, of course, as well, do subscribe to the channel if you've enjoyed, and we'll see you again soon for some more coins in the future on Bits and Bobs. Thank you for watching. Goodbye for now.